Hey guys, Ben Osterveld here with the Business from Within podcast. Hey guys, this is Ben Osterveld from Business from Within. We have Cassy and Kelsey Grant here. This is our second episode doing coaching together in the topics of love and relationships. And first one's good, so why not do another? So that's how we're rolling. But I was thinking about it, and someone might ask, like, why would you do a show on relationships, love, on Business from Within podcast? Because there's like, is this business? The thing is, this is what I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to connect the dots that everything comes back down to relationships. I've been coaching people for a long time, and at the end of the day, when we talk about the business, it's just life. At the end of the day, it's just the relationships that we're in. And the thing is, I've seen more financial success because working from within, having a personal breakthrough, understanding our story and how it sabotages our business. It's like if you were bullied all your life and you don't deal with it, how is that going to come out in your business? If you were controlled as a child, like, I'm not talking psychotherapy, well, I kind of am, but I'm just saying very practical. Like, it's going to haunt you. And then our limiting beliefs that comes from our story. And so relationships is where I find we can have the most breakthrough, and it can help us in almost everything. So that's why Business from Within, we're talking relationships, we're talking love. And first of all, I want to say thanks, Kelsey Grant, the Radical Self-Love. She is making a big impact in this world. She has made an impact in my life. When it comes to my wife and I, we probably wouldn't have made it. We took a year with Kelsey, and Renee took another year. And it's the one thing I was thinking, Kelsey, is what you do is you bring out like this, which I have no clue how you do it. It's like the female side of the essence just comes out. And does that make sense? Like, you bring like this, the beautiful woman out. It's pretty cool how you see that. That's why, like, you're on the show. I have no clue how to do it. And Cassy, I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. I just think, who the heck would put themselves on a show talking about relationships in their lives? They must be an absolute gem and total courageous and open. So I appreciate that. And I think that's really, really cool, Cassy. And we're pumped to have you.
So excited.
Thank you.
So when you applied, what were you thinking? Like, where was your head at, Cassy? Where were you at when you said, okay, I'm going to do this?
Well, I have followed Kelsey's work for a while, and I really appreciate and respect the wisdom and the message and the teachings that she shares. And I have been in a ongoing breakup, I suppose I would say. Not quite sure what to do with it. So I think I saw it as an opportunity. I looked at your show and what you're about, Ben, and really appreciate the perspective that you're coming from and what you're wanting to cultivate in outlook for people. So I welcomed the opportunity to be coached by both of you. So thank you for having me on the show.
Cool. But now we're going to do it, and we'll see in about 40 minutes. You'll be like, this was a big mistake. It's way better just to listen on a podcast.
Not be in the hot seat.
Yeah. So you're, I find, we will see. I just think about what you, in your script, I think a good place to start is, since you put it on the application, is give us a little sense of the last couple of years where you're at. I know that you've gone this breakup as being obviously a big dominant thing in the mind and emotions and spirit. Let me get caught up to speed in a quick moment of like what happened and what's going on there.
Okay. So this is a man that I met in December 2015. We hit it off right away, and it's just a unique combination of intellect, humor, spirituality, outlook, and really a match. And yet, when I met him, I was not in a place that I was really looking for relationship at that time. I knew that it's something that I want in my life, a partnership, but at the time I was really focused on what I'm doing with business and career, and it wasn't the timing that I'd assigned. But he really pursued me hard. He had the vision of partnership and family, and really won me over. So he and I were very much together on that path, on building a life together, a real life partnership, and even very much having kids in the mind. But this was a long distance that also was challenging for him. And he ended up making a unilateral decision that we were going to break up. And that was devastating to me. He then decided that that wasn't really what he had wanted, he didn't want to sabotage us. And that was very quick that he realized that was a mistake. But in this past year and 3 months, so about 15 months, it's been an ongoing limbo that I don't want to be in limbo anymore. I have intentionally been vulnerable and done more and more of my own inner work, gotten as pinpointedly honest as I can, and shared that with him when he has wanted to connect or have a conversation. And the truth is, I still love him. I have realized that I doubt that I'll ever be with anyone, if not him, because it's just a very unique set of complementary attributes that I really, really appreciate and really enjoyed in his and my relationship. But he has just said for many months how confused he is. And to me, that's kind of hogwash. I'm trying to think of how to put it in PG form.
This is definitely not PG.
You can say whatever you need to say.
If you look at my podcast, there's a lot of E's beside a lot of episodes. I'm like, man, I must just like swear constantly.
Drop F-bombs all the time.
We go 18A. Anything higher than that, I'm stopping it. But we'll keep it at 18A, so it'll at least be aired. Okay?
Okay, good. Good. A lot of it then has just struck me as straight up bullshit.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it has seemed like he has really devolved, and that breaks my heart more than anything. It's not that he and I have to be together, but I miss the man that I knew, the man that I met. And I had an ex-fiance years ago when there came a point that I just knew it was time to close the door, to not allow those dynamics in my life anymore. So I really did. I stopped communication. I did the whole blocking on social media, all that. And I never regretted it. I never looked back. I thought, therefore, that would work with this man. And it really didn't. I felt even worse. So it's also been kind of wanting my mind and my heart to be on the same agreement. So I think I've let his confusion be my confusion. I haven't been confused in the sense of wanting what we had, missing that. I still love him, but also realizing that where we are now, I don't even know what it would take for there to be a healthy path forward. He still says he loves me. He still says he wants that, but it's the distance that just doesn't.
So we got a couple questions, Cassy. So first of all, I don't know you, and we haven't built a relationship where we could just be like, where we really know each other. So let's put that on the table. So I never mean to ever, take shots or judge or anything, but I'm pretty honest. I just would like to ask a couple questions if that's okay.
Please do.
Okay, so I see two people love each other, and this may be a rabbit hole, may not be, I don't know. And where was he? Give me a sense of where he's located.
He's in Europe.
In Europe. And
he works in travel, Italy primarily. And
you're in the States in Indiana.
Yes.
So my question is this: two people really love each other, right? When it was good, why not move together? Why not get closer?
That's what we had looked at, and actually what we were planning to do. He was going to move here initially, and then together we would move to Europe after a couple of years, partly because of what I was up to with my career when I met him, and he recognized that and respected that and wanted to support that.
Yeah.
His family has property. He's the eldest son, and it had been mismanaged. He said at the time he really, really felt a responsibility to help with that, and that it had to be now. And I recognized that. I also have been frustrated because that's not really what he's been doing since he's been there. So I don't know whether that was a smokescreen either.
Sometimes we just have these relationships. If we're not really honest with each other, and not dishonest, but just like, it's almost like someone comes and says like, oh, I got you the wrong drink. Oh no, don't worry about it. I'll drink it. And you just hate this drink. Like, I'm talking the basics, right? So I feel like it's very common to be like, no, I just have this family thing. Like it's almost like this is the one thing I would do in relationships is like at the very beginning, I'm like, look, here's the deal. Not like an asshole, but just like, look, this is me. This is honest. So I think a lot of times we get lost in these relationships. They're so amazing, but then we just have these little justifications along the way. Like, no, I'm good. They're like, no, I won't say nothing. I don't want to hurt his feelings, or I don't want to. The other side of it is that things like this happen when one is intimidating. Okay. So there's a reaction. So I would never lie to my wife. Okay. But I have lied to my wife because I don't want her to freak out. So there's a couple things there that in my gut, this is just a gut move. I just wonder where that comes to play. And I'm not really, to be honest, I think if we talk about your specific relationship, I feel like you've probably spent hundreds of hours and a lot of inner work and thinking about it. I don't think it'd be the best use of time, because I think there's something that I always find the back door. Because if 15 months, you would have had it figured out by now. Like it's obviously, you know what I mean by that? Like
yes.
And not trying to be rude or anything, but I think let's explore other areas. Like I just feel like the one area is responsibility. So, and again, I feel like you know some of this stuff, but I want to kind of just get to know you a little bit too. Where are you responsible for this?
Well, I have really claimed 100% responsibility and ended up feeling like that's a mistake because he really ran with that. So our most recent conversation was on Sunday, actually, as recently as that. And I don't hear from him any recognition of responsibility on his side.
So let's keep focused on, I know this is,
Me?
I feel like I don't know you. So I feel like I'm just going to roll and you just say, I'm going to be like the asshole at the end. But like I say, I honestly don't like any kind of confrontation, but I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to kind of figure it out a bit, because when breakthrough happens, I'm telling you, it's the coolest thing, right, Kelsey? Like,
so good.
So it's so good. And it doesn't come through fluff. It comes through usually a tough squeeze. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
There's a reason why we are the way we are. It's the areas we don't want to look at is the areas where we need to look at. Like, so I feel like the more we bring it back to him, the more we're not going to talk about you. And that's the only thing we can control, right?
Yes. So
you've recognized that you took all the responsibility, which it's not true. That's just not true at all. You know, no one has all responsibility unless you like you didn't like, so it's, you know what I mean? That he took advantage of it or whatever, but like where is the responsibility in it? Like, where's the part where like I shouldn't have got into it? Where did it go wrong? There was a couple points that I believe that everyone knows.
Yes.
Like you wanted it too bad. Like, where was it?
We had a lot of honesty, a lot of things that for both of us, we hadn't been straight up with other people about before, and that we were with each other. But there definitely were points at which, for me as well, and like you said with the example of the drink, there were a couple of key things that I was, oh no, that's okay, because I didn't want him to feel badly.
Yeah,
and
very, very normal.
Yes, and the fact
very
was
normal.
Not okay. So I've recognized that, and also to whatever extent the case that me taking all responsibility and him abusing that also comes back to my responsibility for allowing that.
For sure.
So I do see those things. And I've learned this year that I really have never had any concept of healthy boundaries or how to set them, how to maintain them. So that's been a whole journey too, that is ongoing for me very much, with what are boundaries as opposed to walls, and how to develop them.
Kelsey, sorry, go ahead.
Well, even to decide really what the essential, the few essential that I need, and how to create the door around that, how to communicate. This relationship currently is not healthy. Here is this thing that I need. Please let me know when that becomes possible, or some such thing. But how to do boundaries.
Okay.
So Kelsey, you probably this is huge. Like, this changed my whole life, is this stuff. Like, there's so many different angles to talk about it. And I think it's a really good conversation. I'd love to hear your experience in this, and you probably have seen it. Maybe some challenges and some breakthrough stuff you've seen with it.
The first thing I just want to ask you, Cassy, is if you kind of had it all your way, would you want to be with a partner who owns his side of the fence? Or right? Yeah, this is a no-brainer, right? And so by virtue of that alone, that one piece makes him not your person. As much as the mind has created this fantasy around who we want him to be, and I'm not invalidating like the sweetness that was in pockets of your relationship. I 100% believe that was true, and that was there, and that was real. And we have this other side where, when it comes down to your non-negotiables of what you actually need in order to create a healthy partnership, but also a healthy life, is a partner who is willing to own his side of the fence. And you've already told us that he is not someone who is either willing or capable. And I'm curious what that is all about, the waiting game. Like, when he is this way, then it will be the perfect relationship. When was the earliest point in time you remember that happening? Like, your earliest memory of wanting someone to be a way that they're not?
Oh, from my earliest memory, earliest childhood, definitely.
Okay. So is that with mom? Is that with dad? Is that with a teacher? Is that with a sibling? Who is it with?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay, great. So it is in your love template.
Yes.
It is in your love template to choose someone who isn't actually fully developed in terms of his ability to meet you with 100% responsibility of his 50%. Because you have 50%, he has 50%, and we have to own 100% of those 50%. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so what happens, and this, I imagine, and I've seen this a lot in my practice, but I've also been through this in my personal life, where we get hooked on the fantasy of someone, and they have a lot of those qualities that we are looking for. And at the beginning stages of love, we are in this first cycle, which is the romantic bubble. And in the romantic bubble, all of the realness of life, we literally can't see, because we are in like this cocktail of hormones that are flushing through the body that are actually preventing our ability to see things clearly. And it's a normal part. It's important for the bonding process for that to happen. And then boom, we hit another cycle in love where it gets real. And then we start to see what someone is actually made of. And if we don't kind of go into the initial stages of love with our eyes open, but also prepared. So a lot of us go into love blindly, and we're just looking for this feeling of deliverance from our pain that we've experienced early in our love template. So I imagine that was painful for you, being with people who couldn't meet your needs. That's not an easy thing to be with. It's traumatic is what it is. Without knowing what specifically happened in your early childhood, when people aren't attuned, it's traumatic. It doesn't matter what happens here. And so we're dealing with that on an unconscious level. That's kind of operating underneath the scenes. And so with that going on, we then we'll see this person. We're like, oh, you're like the complete opposite of everything that I ever had. And I know. And so that must be the answer. And we inevitably pull in people who can, speak to the exact wounding that we had. And we're like, oh my gosh, I'm finally going to get my need met. You're, the one. You're the one. And so then we put this person on a pedestal, and then we combine that with all the chemical flushing that's happening, and we literally cannot see it clearly. And so it sounds to me like that's a big part of what happened in this relationship, is that we projected this idea of this person being your savior. And, as you've gone through your personal growth and personal development, it sounds like you're starting to reclaim a lot of your power, which is, again, why this relationship is just not clicking. Because if you're taking ownership on your side, but not taking too much responsibility, because people can do that. Like, if we have been in unboundaried relationships, there will be a tendency for you to claim more responsibility than is yours to claim. In my last relationship, that's exactly what happened. He was, there were parts that he would claim for sure, but in terms of his whole side of the fence, no way. And so my giver energy kind of overcompensated for that. And so I'm like, okay, I'll take all the responsibility for everything that's happened, which, now being outside of that, I'm like, wow, that was really arrogant of me. And also it was a wounded move for me to do that, because the logic was, if I take all the responsibility, then there's no reason why this can't work. There's just no reason why he can't choose me then. Because look, I addressed all the things and I took all the responsibility, and now there's no problem.
Which is totally dishonoring to yourself, because you're being someone that you're not to make it work. And then it's like anger, depression, resentment, all of that's just the garden to grow. Mm-hmm. We have this weird we do this, right? We try to match people. We just try to make it work. And it always comes from our story, right? Absolutely. It just has never served anyone to do that. And a guy, one person said, Ben, you gotta promote a certain thing, because you'll get on stage and they're gonna, there's so many people drinking the Kool-Aid on this topic. All you got to do is align with that. And I'm like, I like going on stage. I like the promotion. I like the business stuff. Good. And it feels good, but I'm like, sorry, it doesn't feel good, because it's completely not aligned. It is way harder to live that way in a world of people that will absolutely do whatever it takes to get what they want. Mm-hmm. And then and they'll never know how unhappy they are. That's one thing I know for sure. So even people looking at me, it's like, who has been behind the scenes? All I know is that they listen to me on the podcast. They don't know me. We don't like. I mean, Kelsey and I know each other pretty well. But the thing is, there's a whole side of people that we don't know. Anyways, I think we just can't justify ourselves. We just can't. And then it creates a different attraction. I'm huge into this. Is to create an attraction around you. But there's that dirty, messy part in between is where is hard, because all the relationships around you get used to how you are. And like we talked in the last show, it's a deal you make with everyone, saying this is how I'm going to be. I'll be the one to drink the coffee or whatever. I don't like coffee, but I'll drink it. And it's almost like she's cool with it. And it's almost like our own fault for creating that environment. And if you start looking, I don't like looking at just the man or the woman or the partner, because you got to start looking at all your relationships. Mm-hmm. It's more how we attract everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's funny how we come back down to this, Kelsey, like this whole thing on, it really is, it's a really interesting, the human, we, in a world that we just want to be loved. So we do whatever it takes to feel love, but then it's not real love. Because we did something to get it. It's like, here, let me rub your back. Oh, I love it. There we go. That's not love. That's a good back rub. Mm-hmm. There's this weird, and we don't want to just like, we're not good enough. Like, it just goes through that whole process, right?
Yeah. And there is a difference. And I think it's really important to have relationships like the one that you had, because it teaches you a lot about what love actually is by experiencing pieces of what it isn't. And so
totally, that's good.
it sounds like there's a lot of woundology that's wrapped up with the relationship with this guy, which is also part of the reason why it's so hard to let go of. Our wounds hook us, because when we find someone that we think that we can replay our old wounding with, the psyche's justification in that is like, okay, this person really matches somewhere that I've been, even though at the very beginning it looked like they were the exact opposite. And so I get to replay a lot of the same feelings I had when I didn't get my needs met early in childhood. So when that happens, we have a woundology match. And those relationships will bring us to our edge. They will bring out every ounce of our shadow. And they will bring out every ounce of their shadow. And then we'll see like what the actual blocks are, what the resistance is to actually loving cleanly, to loving fully, to actually meeting someone heart on. And that means both people are meeting each other heart on. And, it's going to take time to unhook from that. And part of the unhooking is the reclamation of your alignment. So the more you unhook from him and you put boundaries in place, because there's still a part of you that's getting something out of this ongoing limbo. And
yeah,
I mean, you can tell me if I'm off base with this, but like part of it, at least for me, when I was still hooked in with my ex, was, well, I don't have to really put myself out there. I don't have to be vulnerable again. And putting myself out there means that maybe I might not meet someone who actually wants to love me because I don't, like, deep down think that I'm lovable. Like, there's so much, it was kind of like this emotional blow by blow in that relationship. So it like really blew out my self-worth. And so being in that state, I'm like, who is going to love me?
And especially for you too, especially being a relationship expert, like that's like in context, like that's like the most, like, I'm sure you're embarrassed and you're like, I can't believe, how am I going to run my, like, we're not talking a relationship. We're talking a very public, this is my expertise, but that's what makes an expert is the actual going through this. That's why, Cassy, the gift that you have right now is like, if you can just understand that there's only a few times in life that you get to go through this. And there's only a few times in life that you'll find the gift in it. Because when life's good, you don't get to do this. Like, you're not digging into your life like this. You're not jumping onto shows and talking about your life. That's the gift in it. And I know it sounds cliche, but man, like, I've lived in pain like most of my life. So much rejection and abuse and rehab and terrible. And that's why I am who I am today. Like, I just want you to have a little bit of an angle on embracing the pain of it. Because I think there's we run from it so much. Like, an analogy I use is that we can have two choices. Let's say you broke your leg and you could ignore it. Like, I don't want to deal with that. But then it'll heal. Like, you'll be okay. Time heals. Well, yeah, but it heals crooked. and then you got this leg, and you're a human being walking with a limp. If you catch my analogy.
Yes.
We got a bruised confidence. We're just not the person I used to be. And we got this thing, but if we don't embrace the process of the pain, which would be the analogy of a doctor setting your leg to dig in and kind of figure it out. And if it's been too long, like, I don't think it's been too long for you. A lot of people are like way gone, and you got to like break it to get it set, and you're not there. But I would just really like feel it. Like, it's actually the pathway out, Cassy. Is toward the pain and to feel it and be honest. But there's one disclaimer I just deeply feel like, please listen to your mind, how much you're going to judge the shit out of yourself. That is the one way to stay in the pain. You have to observe it, feel it, and it is what it is. Not like, fuck, how can I fucking do this? And oh my, like, that conversation is literally where you will be stuck, and you will attract the same garbage over and over again. I promise you. Now, what do you hear me saying, Cassy?
It just, all of this that both you and Kelsey have been saying have resonate so much. You really are spot on, even with not knowing me, never having talked to me. So it's remarkable. Um, and I definitely do still feel the pain very deeply. It's not as raw as it was at the beginning. If it were, I would not be able to be talking to you two. Kind of a puddle. But that it is an important point to really feel the pain without all the thinking the pain.
Yeah, the regret, the judgment, all these are old patterns. There is a book I hate recommending books. Hey, I got a book for you. But there's one that I think would be like, it's right up, I don't know, you take it or leave it, but it's called Letting Go. Okay. And it's called The Pathway to Surrender I'm going to just get it here. I'm just going to take copy image. I'm going to put it in the chat here, and I'm going to see, it's called Letting Go by, let's see if I can do this. No, it didn't work. Okay. Like I can do a podcast, but anything other than that. No, here we go. Got it here. By David R. Hawkins. Okay. So this is one of the most incredible books I've ever read. And I think this is something you might want to look at. I don't know if it's your thing. Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David R. Hawkins. And it is like systematically breaks down the psyche of how to let go. Because and what's interesting, Cassy, is letting go is what I got out of this book is letting go doesn't happen on like a big giant let go. So for example, say if I was working with someone and I needed them to let go of something, I'd probably start with something like very, very little or a tiny little piece of it. So letting go is not a thing. It's 500 things. Start with like, what can I let go of? I can let go of the idea of, no, not that one. I can let go of, and start working toward finding the stuff you can let go of, the little ones. And go, no, I can let go of that one. Yeah. I can let go of that one. Yeah. And the process of doing that is that you start going, I can let go of all of it. But I can't let go of everything right now, but just find something, like a thought, something that you can, expectation. I can let go of that little, tiny little bit. The other thing is, psychology-wise, there's a lot of science in almost doing a really big exercise or go have fun, play on a sports team, then read this book. Because you'll be in a different energy to let go. It's very easy to let go once you've had some fun. It's almost like if I come and you just had a big fight and I'm like, yeah, let's talk about letting go. Or if it's like, we just had the time of our life at like a water park and we're having, or whatever would be fun for you. And then now let's talk about letting go. Yeah, who cares, right? Because we're happy. So this is I think this is where I get this stuff from, this is that book. So you can take a look at it. Now, have you heard of that one, Kelsey?
I haven't, but now I want to read it.
So there's another book that he wrote. It's called Power versus Force. You've probably heard of that one.
I have read that one. Yeah.
And this is his other book. So Power versus Force is credible. So anyways, the other thing I was thinking about when I read your application that just stood out, I wanted to kind of check in on it, is that you've got this, I shouldn't say you've got this, but my assumption or my read was that you see this guy as he was the perfect match, okay? Or whatever, like that's a pretty big statement. What I know of relationships, and I'm really not an expert. I've just screwed it up so many times that I figured out, and that there is no match. I don't believe in that. There's no such thing as a match. If we keep looking for a match, do you know why? Because we evolve. How do you match? I'll match you now. I'm not going to match you later. So in a relationship, the reason why my wife and I, man, we put it to the gears, our relationship. Like I'm telling you, there was times that I was sleeping in my apartment, my rental. There was times where she's like, it was just like, don't get me wrong. We've had some amazing years, but there were some years that were really hard. And I think when I met Renee, she said to me, you know what, Ben, I'll do whatever it takes to like work it out. And it was like this line. I went, I like this one, because I knew it was almost what was attractive. And I realized that if in a relationship, I think we need to find someone willing to evolve with us, not match us.
And that's what made him a match, honestly, because we went through a lot of challenges from the get-go and worked through it together every single time.
So the match, but you're also intellect and all these different things too were really cool. Like, and it's a weird game, right? Because it's a weird game. I don't have to be dating right now. So my perspective might be different. That's where Kelsey's like perfect for this. But I do believe the expectation that we're going to find a match may be the thing that like we just, and maybe the match is not what we attract with our garbage. Maybe there's people out there that you're like, I wouldn't do it. Maybe that's the guy.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's an openness around not matching. Like my wife and I, man, I grew up in a really hyper Christian environment, and I met my wife and she's hyper Christian, and now I'm not. We're talking core beliefs, like core. And she's even said to me, Ben, I didn't marry a guy that wouldn't go to church. I'm like, well, I'm not going to church anymore. This is dumb. Like we're talking, and guess what though? We are not a match. I'm telling you right now, my wife and I are not a match, but there's a core in there that loves each other so deeply. And we really connect. So I just want to give you a little bit of, just maybe shift your mind a little bit around this matching thing. I think it's a big deal. I'm kind of hard on it because it's not just you, it's almost everybody. I'm looking for the match. But I know you're.
Well, the interesting part is I agree with you 100%. Yeah. But my terminology, I think, was a little bit different.
Okay.
This, and what you described in your relationship with your wife, is exactly the dynamics that he and I have shared. And the only reason that we're still even talking, honestly, is that deep connection, appreciation for one another, and the experiences that we had of continually working through things. And I think there's still that attempt to do that. And I'm now questioning whether that's possible. I was excited in some ways until very recently that because of this breakup that we had the possibility, and I still see this, the possibility to be stronger than ever before because of those things like the coffee selections, only more important issues, obviously, that we hadn't been 100% honest about. And they were few because most things we really had been. So because of all of that being brought to the surface finally, and our kind of, duking it out with all that, and why didn't you tell me? Well, you didn't tell me, all that it was a new level of honesty that would enable an even stronger partnership and working through. And it's just very recently that I'm really questioning whether that will be. I still see that it could, but that's if both of us are choosing it. And I think I'm feeling more and more alone in being the only one choosing it anymore. And that's my exit sign.
Yeah, and hence I don't know how to do that. The tearing apart of your heart. That's what that is. And there's only one way to fix that is to let go. And there's a deep self-love involved in that. Like a deep self-love, which probably you need by letting go. And that's like this one thing I learned in life is that I got to stand alone. And there's something about standing alone that has absolutely launched me into the public eye, has made me be really good at what I do for coaching and everything, even in sales, is that I'm willing to stand on my own. And honestly, it's not fun. It's not fun because I want to just be in a community. I want everyone to like me, and I want to be fucking popular. And the thing is, I say stuff and I do things, but I just got to be me. And sometimes, like I'm talking core relationships, don't want to be around me. I'm not an asshole. I'm just trying to figure me out. And I think that's the process, and that's a hard process because you realize over and over again, oh, they're not really, I thought they were totally with me. I guess they're not. But the standing alone has been one of the biggest things I've ever learned in success in life and relationships. It's almost like I almost kind of like it now. It's almost exhilarating to be like, nope, I can do it. And I feel strong. It is so cool. Like you hit the gym and be like the first time you lift that weight and be like, I'm on my own and I'm just going to say my opinion. Like, holy shit, I just alienated half the people I know. I'm never saying that again. But then you start working toward honesty and just being real. Sometimes it comes out wrong, but that commitment to being, I'm going to stand alone. But then you find a guy that wants to stand alone too. Then it changes the game. Then you got a guy that loves the fact that you're independent and loves the fact that you're into that. Like there's just like this pure relationship. You think, Kelsey, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much in there. I mean, especially when we're seeing like the possibility of a relationship that's not the reality of the relationship. Yeah. And when it comes to having a really incredible partnership, we have to deal with reality. Mm-hmm. The reality of the situation is that he doesn't meet your criteria because he is not 100% in.
Yes.
And it's not like a quick little moment. We're talking 15 months, right?
Yeah. Like,
So that's all I'm saying. And like, I get there's relationships where, guess what? I've been out a few times, but we're talking like 15 months. I've never been out that long. I've been out for months, but not 15 months. Like, it's like, if 15 months, my wife and I are still in, like, it's gotta, like, I'm like, I was done. Like, I gotta stop this. There's nothing more I love than my wife on this planet. Nothing. And I was ready to leave her. And I'm ready to break up because I can't keep doing that because I love myself too much. And I love her too much. It's just not fair. So I feel like that, just a little bit of a disclaimer, because just because someone doesn't match doesn't mean to dump them. I think we fight for relationships. I'm huge into it. Fight as hard as you freaking can for the relationship, as long as two people are fighting for it.
Exactly.
And there's a point where one person's got to go, this ain't working. And maybe that's like, letting go is the place of power. You become very strong.
Mm-hmm. And it honestly, like, the second you put that boundary up and say, hey, I'm not playing this game anymore, you know, my needs aren't being met, this actually isn't a full-hearted yes for me. If there is going to be any change in that relationship, it is only going to come by you reclaiming your alignment with yourself, which is directly correlated to you putting a firm boundary in place and saying, no, this is no longer the standard that I accept. And I'm going to go and on my path. And if one day, someday that leads us to cross paths again, okay. But for now, this is no longer a yes for me. And that is like the path to moving towards more of a heartmate connection versus a woundmate connection. So you guys are wrapped up in that woundmate, woundology stuff. And it's very much tied to our very real human desire to merge with another person. But we also have this opposing force that really wants us to remain single or individual and unique. And so we have these two opposing forces as human beings of wanting to merge, but then wanting to be separate. And part of a really healthy relationship understands those two elements of our humanity. And when we meet someone and you're like, oh, there's this new level of honesty, like there's all these things that I've never experienced before, guess what that trips up? It trips up that human desire to merge. We're like, oh, finally, I found the person that I just click with. And like, no one will ever understand me the way that he does. And no one will ever love me the way that he does. And like all of those like Disney ideals and romantic comedy ideals about relationships just get flooded in. And we're like, yes, I'm living my own romantic comedy right now. This is amazing. I'm in the Notebook, but it's like starring me and, you know, this guy. And that's really what's happening in the psyche. And what that has us do when we are in that fusing, when we're in that merging, and when we're coming at it from that woundology place, is that we will overstep our truth. And we will overstep, like, it's one thing to tell the truth about, I really like asparagus and I hate broccoli. I mean, actually, that's not even true. I don't like either of them.
ADD.
You know,
we can totally go down that path. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like one thing to tell the truth about that, and then it's another thing to tell your truth on, these are my actual needs in relationship. They're not being met, and because of that, I'm walking away. So this has a lot to do with you discovering your non-negotiables. So these are the non-negotiable yeses. I would really recommend that you look for 3 things that are non-negotiable yes. Like, these have to be there no matter what. And then you have your non-negotiable no's, which 3 things that cannot be there at all. And if even one of those things is on the list in someone's character makeup, it is not a yes for you. This is not about compromising who you are in order to fit with someone. That's the woundology. The alignment, the heartmate, comes at it from a place of clarity of, these are my non-negotiables. I'm going to test for those character non-negotiables first. And do you meet them? If you do, then we proceed into the next phase of testing for alignment, which is, do we have relational compatibility? And so we move from this idea, this Jerry Maguire idea of you complete me, which is very much woundology, which is what I'm hearing, that he completes you. in these ways that no one ever has before. And we want to move that relationship, and we want to move that mentality, that perspective to, you complement me. Like, your energy is a complement to my life. So kind of piggybacking on what Ben was saying about, we're not really looking for the match, so to speak, but we're looking for the complement. We're looking for someone whose gifts, talents, character qualities complement what yours are. And
That
I'm
is
sure
what I feel to be the case, is the compliments. The complete me does not resonate with me. That's not how I've seen him.
So to stay away from him for a second, what I really like is the more we talk about the intimate relationships and the wife's, husband's, partners, whatever, I find that we get so lost in that conversation when it's, I just want to see, like what Kelsey just said was setting up these 3 or 4 things that are going to be, I need this in the relationship. I actually think if you're going to want to get an intimate relationship, you got to look at all yours. Like I'd put those same boundaries, rules about, if you're going to want to be my friend, if you're going to be my dad, if you're going to be my mom, my sister, partner, business partner, you know what? If you can work on the areas where you're not so emotionally charged, like, why start on the hardest one? That's totally like 15 months of just like, who knows what you've been going through. Let's work on that one. No, let's work on the one that's easy, like your sister who doesn't want to talk to you or talks to you like a piece of shit. And you're saying, you know what? I'm not into you anymore. How easy is that? Letting go of the ones that are actually going to be easier to let go of. And I feel like we work so hard on these big ones. And I'm like, fuck, like, oh shoot, I just turned an E onto my podcast. Anyways, but explicit. Well, might as well throw another one in there. It's like had one bite of ice cream, might as well eat the top. But you hear what I'm saying? Like, I just think if you could go after this podcast and think about other relationships where you're not being fulfilled, but since they're not intimate, lifelong matches, who cares? Well, I freaking care, because I have a standard, and it's not like, hey, I'm amazing, you can't be in my life. No, I wish I could. And by the way, if you want to be in my life, here's how. My door's open. But if you're not nice to me, I'm not going to be around you. If you're going to show up, an hour late to my house every time, you're not really a friend, or you're not going to give me an update. Like, there's some basic things and human respect that I need for you to be in my life. Forget my wife and everyone. You see what I mean? So it shifts. We get to the hard ones, we get lost because it's way too emotional. And so I just feel like, just to look back and look, which ones can I maybe start setting my boundaries on the easy ones? Does that make sense, Cassie?
It does, yes. And then there's the question of, well, who will I have in my life? Does that mean just alone? Because I do appreciate the standing alone. I feel like I've done that a lot, because I did start this process, years ago, with my parents, with my family.
Yeah.
And that is very much the case. There's very little conversation, certainly not being in each other's lives anymore. So then if you've already set those boundaries with these people that haven't been healthy, then and I can relate to this, Cassie, is that I'd have a hard time letting people in. Because that's why standing alone feels good in some level, because there's a yin and a yang. So let me talk about the other side. I'm closed, lots. Like, I'm trying all the time. Like, I'm trying to be vulnerable and put myself out there. It's not easy to, like, my closest, like, who's my closest friends? I got to really think. I don't know. Sometimes I got a few, but I'm like, I sometimes, to be really honest, I see other people connect, and I'm like, I'm not quite there yet. I don't know how to. Like, growing up in a place where there was zero nurturing, zero. And then I just feel like I'm very smart because I figured out how people work. So it's more of maybe it keeps me safe. And I just feel like I'm going to commit to trying to open up and let people in. And I find the more I accept myself with my shortcomings, the more I let people in, and it actually is okay. So there's a part of boundaries, but then where I'm at is I've done the boundary thing, and I'm good at that. And I feel like it's just launched my life into where it needs to be. But now I'm at a place of depth I'm looking for. And I realized that I used to always have to add value to the relationship for someone to be in it, going, oh no, look what I'll do for you. Now you'll hang out with me.
If you listen to my latest podcast, you'll understand it's stealing smokes to find value, or stealing cigarettes. Just go listen to it. And I'll tell you, in grade 6, I'd steal smokes from my grandpa and give them to kids. And then they would hang out with me. And I didn't realize that still comes up today. Like because my entire business is world-class client experience. Like I literally built on the back of that behavior. So that's okay. It just needs self-awareness. It's just about I think hearing you're like, sounds like you cut your parents out. It sounds like there's some history there. I can feel it. And it's like, with that history, it's like, you might not have to let them back in, but I think there's some conversations to maybe try to let someone back in. Forget this guy for a second. It's nothing but trouble in your mind. Okay. You won't solve that. I guarantee you won't solve that right now. But there's something about letting someone back in, letting people back in, maybe there's a relationship that you think is so fucked up that they just want to be your friend again. And there may be some pathways of patterns that you can create in reconciliation with other people that might actually be very healing for you. And that's where I think loneliness is right now for you, is that you've actually probably, put sets of boundaries, and the thing is, you don't have a doorway back in. So my family, I kind of keep trying with my dad, and then I'm like, no. But the more I do it, the more confident. He doesn't bother me as much anymore. He's honestly a really great guy. I want an amazing relationship with him, but he doesn't know how. So I'm just trying to work that out. I'm just trying to let him back in a little bit. It doesn't work out, but I can take getting hurt here and there. So it's a little bit of a different energy than just got him out. I did that all right. But now I'm just trying to let people back in so I can have community and love from everyone. Does that make it really what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
And I can totally relate too. I mean, when I moved to Vancouver, I knew 2 people, and it was like a starting again. And I had done a lot of boundary work around my social circle and my family system. And then I moved out here, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm alone. And then I'm like, I could either see that as like a really disempowering thing, which would be my old model, or I could put on a new lens and see this as a possibility to create the family I've always wanted. Not to say that my family isn't amazing. My family's great. Mm-hmm. And like there's a degree of intimacy on like a soul to soul level that I was really craving from my social environment. And I had always kind of operated in lots of different social circles, but never like that one posse that you're like, yeah, we're just going to cruise through life together. Like that was not my experience, but I wanted that.
You're 5. You're 5.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you've been friends since you were 2, and like you just keep like growing and evolving with each other in complementary ways. Like I didn't have that, and I really wanted it. And so here I was in this new chapter of my life where I was in a new city, I didn't know anybody, and I had the opportunity to create anything I wanted. And so I knew that I wanted to build a social circle that really felt more aligned and came from this place of core value alignment, came from this place of, boundaries, respect, standards, all that stuff. And I ended up at an event in a hotel. And I was texting and walking, and I literally walk into this guy in the hallway, and he's texting and walking, and we like literally smack into each other. And I look up, and his name's Jeremy, and we had done a personal development program together a year before. And we had both, in that time, moved to the same city, ended up at the same event, walking in the same hallway, texting because neither of us was looking, and we literally were collided by the universe. And then he was like, oh, we should hang out sometime. I'm like, okay. So we go on a date. We're like, yeah, we should never, ever date. We're clearly supposed to be friends. And then he introduced me to his entire social circle, which was this group of guys that had literally never let a woman into their social circle before. And when I came in, it was like the missing piece that gelled everything together. And then all of a sudden, I had my crew. I had my community. I had this group that I was like, I have been waiting my entire life to belong in a community like this. But it took me standing alone and enduring, you know, that happened 6 months into me living in Vancouver. So I had 6 months of enduring the discomfort of not really belonging anywhere, of not really knowing anyone, of like doing the uncomfortable work of like going out and meeting people, you know, and like not having that work out. And then boom, in a moment of synchronicity that was absolutely orchestrated by a force beyond me, when I was ready and open and available to that, this magical moment happened that forever changed the course of my life. I literally would not have the business that I have if it had not been for that one moment in that hallway when I was texting and ran into Jeremy. My life would be totally different. I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't know Ben. Like, none of this would have happened.
But if you didn't move to Vancouver, you wouldn't have
you
wouldn't have had the bump.
Exactly.
So there was a responsibility you took, and you like took that move, because obviously that wasn't just like a strategic, it was probably a feeling move, right?
It was very intuitive. It was like, you got to go. There was no logical reason for me to move to Vancouver. I had no job. I had nothing set up. Like, I just knew I had to be here. And so there might be ways in which your intuition is starting to pull you like that, and really pay attention.
If you let go of things and let that flow happen, because if you're not letting someone in, you're not letting go, like the flow is stuck. So these are things to get to the magical place of intuition and the universe dropping things in your lap. You're like, what the heck? I think there's a place of letting go. You know what I mean? And the one point is, when you attracted your guy last time, you were busy, not even looking for it. Just don't forget that. That's like the biggest thing. And you know this, everyone knows this. When you're not looking for it, it shows up. You know what I mean? There's that flow. So, okay, so we're kind of getting close to an hour here.
Can I just say one more thing, Ben?
You can say 10 more things.
Okay.
But let's keep it to one. No.
Okay. You know, something that you'd said in your application, but also it kind of came up a few times here, was the idea of like, there's just no one else like him. And I want to validate that. That's true.
It's so true.
There is no one else like him at all. Like, that was a special relationship, an important one for you to have. And, you know, there are, and like, this is kind of what I was getting at with the whole you complete me versus you complement me thing. The you complete me camp is all about there's just the one. And no one else can kind of meet me in that way that I've been met. And then the you complement me shifts the dynamic to a more abundant mindset around it, that, oh, there's actually, you know, 7.4 billion people on this planet. There's probably at least a handful who might be aligned for me. And who actually, but it requires faith, because you can't actually see that yet. And that's a big part of what faith and grace are all about, is being able to move in this new direction, trusting that there is someone that is like beyond your wildest dreams, and like multiple people who are beyond your wildest dreams in terms of alignment with who you are now.
And would be into you, really into you.
And like, right.
Who jump across the country and come see you. Like, they're there.
Yeah. And, you know, it's hard to kind of see that from our paradigm right now. I like to think of it like a skyscraper. So when we're in these places, we're kind of at the ground level. So at the ground level, we can see like to either side and straight out ahead of us. And like, we turn around and there's the door. So, you know, we have a certain level of scope to our sight. But then if we took the elevator all the way up to the top of the building and got on the rooftop, well, all of a sudden we now have a 360-degree view, and it spans so much further. And the process of going up that elevator is the process of continually realigning with yourself. So that means saying yes when it's a full-hearted yes, saying no when it's a full-hearted no. And we've got to drop like the nice girl thing, because being nice has probably gotten you, you know, a lot of places. And being boundaried, we can kind of create this context like, oh, people may not like me. Ooh, that's not very nice. And that's true. It's not nice, but it's kind. So we want to move you from like operating in a nice paradigm to a kind paradigm, because a kind paradigm actually honors not only the other person, but honors you too. So we don't do that self-abandonment of like, I'll give up what I need in order to make sure that they get what they need. And then that, you know, as we continually kind of recalibrate, it's like that Jeep commercial that shows up in all the movies. It's like recalculating. Like all of these things happen in life and we have to recalculate. And so it's very much that concept of just recalibrating with you. So you've actually not known you at this point in, you know, in your life up until now. Like you're getting to rediscover who you are and who you've become as a result of that relationship. And what clarity you have as a result of being with someone who, yes, I'm sure he does meet a lot of your criteria, 100%. But again, he doesn't meet the main one, which is, I'm in it. You know, I want to do this. I want to go forward with you. And so to move into like that more abundant space of like, oh, there's a lot of really high quality men and women. So like this helps, you know, with what Ben was saying about, you know, start where it's easy. I'm 100% in that camp. That is how I coach. That is how I teach. Like we start where it's easy and then we build momentum from there. And so we wouldn't want to throw you into the dating game right now because that would be way too confronting. But maybe start where it's easiest, like building connections with women that, you know, can build that solid sisterhood for you so that it reinforces this idea that, oh, wow, I can be met and I can be met by women, because that's a big part of having a healthy relationship with a man too. If you don't have healthy relationships with women in sisterhood, we like unconsciously put all of this pressure onto our partner to be our everything. And there are things in which a man can provide for you in terms of partnership, but there are things that only women can provide you with that a man, like no offense, Ben, and any other guy listening, but they can't provide for you because they're not a woman. Like they don't understand to the degree to which a woman understands, because a woman's hardwired the same.
It was so freeing for me to figure that out.
Yeah.
It's so freeing. Man, because I want to give my wife everything. I'm that guy, like anything you want. So I've been trying to give the feminine stuff she needs, and it's fucked up. Like, I'm like, I just can't figure it out.
I can't do it.
And then she goes out and hangs out with a friend. I'm like, oh, that's so much better. I don't got to do that. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of pressure on men to give that to the women, and the women get all resentful. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. Like, I'll try. Like, I'll try. Like, it's like, why are you playing that violin? I'm giving it my best go here. Like, just play it. I'm like, this is the best I got.
I don't know how.
Like, like I suck, but I'm really good at other areas. Like, so there's just a lot of pressure that comes from the woman to the man. Like, and no offense, I like it. Tell the world, man. Tell them stop pressurizing. Guys can't do girl stuff. So a lot of times, you know.
Yeah. It has, you know, it has a lot to do with like our model of the world. So Cassy, I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, when a woman gives you a certain look, it communicates a lot, you know, and so you'll know how she's feeling based on how she looks at you. Or if a woman gives you a one-word answer, chances are that gets filtered through our feminine filter as, uh-oh, something's wrong here. And so women are really good at picking up these subtle cues in communication, these subtle cues in body language. And because of that, there's a magic that happens in sisterhood, because we literally can have an entire conversation without saying anything. And like everyone knows what's happening. And then guys are on the outside being like, what the fuck is going on over there? Like, what are they all giggling about? Like, no one's even talking.
And guys will be like, they think I'm hot. That's okay. Look at them. They're all looking at me. I know it. They think I'm hot. Guys are really bad like that. Like, look, she wants me. Like, we're talking about freaking corn on the cob, buddy. Like, you know, I know you're not. I'm the cob.
Yeah, I know. But you're really thinking when you're thinking about corn.
Yeah, I don't know. It's real kinky stuff, girls. Yeah, you know, I'm not into that. See ya. Guys are very funny. Like, she wants me. I know it. What do you mean?
But Cassie, do you hear what I'm saying about that? Like that there is a way that a woman will understand you that, is unlike the way a man will understand you. And
Yes.
both are necessary. We need both. And so to start in that arena might be a really powerful place, because especially in the presence of high quality women who will stand for your greatness, like there's something to be said about being surrounded by women who are in their alignment and who just love you as you are. They're also not going to put up with your bullshit. They're not going to let you get away with, not setting boundaries with someone who is being a boundary bully or someone who is taking advantage of you. And like, if they notice that you're kind of slipping into those old patterns of like kind of playing nice, they're like, no, girl, like own your worth, be fierce, be kind. You can be kind. And that's what a healthy boundary is. A healthy boundary is when we're connected and protected. So we can be kind, but firm in our delivery. So we have porous boundaries where we're like really open. So we're connected, but we're not protected. And then we have rigid boundaries where we're protected, but disconnected. And so we really want to get into that middle ground of healthy boundary setting. And in that zone, we can be kind and firm. Be like, this is what will work for me. This is what doesn't. And I'm okay with setting a boundary. Because if I set a boundary with someone and it actually filters them out of my life, all that does is it makes room for people who are actually ready to respect me, to love me, to honor me, to cherish me, to walk through the door of my life. You got to make room for them. Because right now, if we've got people who are kind of not honoring boundaries or not fully in, not fully out, they're like literally standing in the doorway of your life, but also on the porch, and they're just like cluttering up all the space for other people to walk through that threshold.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Cassy, is there anything that you need to ask or to say to feel complete with where we went today? Any other questions?
I do want to mention, especially that piece about faith and trust. That's the other piece I've realized this year I really don't have. Boundaries have been the big thing. Letting go and not really knowing how to do that has been a big thing. And then the faith and trust. So I really appreciate you to hit on all the main ones that I've realized and still need to figure out how to do now. But
okay.
Those are the keys.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I will follow up with you after, because I can definitely point you in the direction of some resources for that. And, the masterclass, like we talked about before, really covers all of that in a nice container. So if that feels good, we can definitely talk about that more so that you feel supported.
Yeah, we can link it to the show notes too.
Yeah.
Do you got a program coming up, Kelsey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next week.
Next week?
We start next week. Yeah.
Cool. You have stuff going all the time, right? We never really talk about this. We just go and try to help someone. And
I know.
We should probably promote what we actually do. But
yeah, I've got the masterclass, which is the one that I teach, and we go through things like boundaries. We go through things like standards, non-negotiables,
men and women,
like how to actually change a habit, both in relational habits, but also just habits in general. And then we talk about partnership skills. So love is
one year program. Sorry, it's 1 year, and it's every week for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you give massive value. There will be a day that you will not be able to do that program. I promise you.
I know.
And it's coming soon. So
it is coming
I know
soon.
that. Like, I'm thinking every week you're meeting with a group. Every week, I'm like, man, that's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
So that's huge value. Cassy, have you done any work with Kelsey?
No.
Well, you should quickly. No, like I meant no. I don't know how that was taken. Anyway. Because it's good. You're like, oh, she screwed up. Got to get in there. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, this is what happens sometimes. See?
Sometimes. No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah, Did you guys just do that woman look thing? Like, what are you really saying here? Tell me the man style.
I didn't even know what you were saying, how it could be taken amiss until you spelled it out, Ben.
Yeah, see, now I messed it up. Just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth, Ben. It was fine.
Yeah, Ben, like I filtered it the same way Cassy did. I was like, oh, that's so
nice. Yeah, you should totally deal with Cassy. I'm thinking, oh no, what if she says something screwed up? Don't say it. Shit, I just said it. I knew they didn't think that. Okay.
my God,
Well,
so
we know
good.
that's the best little promotion I've given you,
Yes,
Kelsey.
thank
Like,
you.
I don't
Thank
know
you
what
for
the heck
that.
I'm doing. Anyways, Cassie, one last thing, and is there any question that's not asked? You probably just asked that, Kelsey. I was just saying if there's any.
I did.
Okay,
But
we
we
can.
can ask again.
Okay.
Just so that we're all clear.
Yeah. Is there any questions you want to put on the table quickly, or something that you want to ask me or Kelsey? Like a direct, specific question, not like how do I find love or something like that's the big one.
Right.
That's another hour, but like something that's specific that maybe we can support you with.
Right. Well, I think maybe you already did touch on it, but I just want to see if I'm clear about it. How to build the faith and trust. And then Kelsey flowed from that into continually realigning with self. And the skyscraper analogy, is that the key piece for building the faith and trust? Is that continual realignment with self, or what? Can you break down quickly? I don't know how to build that faith and trust.
I can probably give you a different angle that about because I didn't trust myself forever and have faith in myself. Like I'd go to everyone else to try to get help instead of just trusting myself. And so there's a few things. Let's go back down to how our brain works. Okay. Your brain now is giving you data of the past and it's trying to predict your future. This is the issue you're having, Cassie, because the data you've got right now is not really that exciting. Okay. And the brain's going, well, this is what happens in long-term relationships. This is what happens when, so first of all, I have to separate my brain from me. So instead of saying I don't trust myself, I don't trust my brain's data. Okay. So you realize that your guiding functions are from the historical data. So that's step one. Step two is you got to create new data. That's faith. So you're going to do things that are going to go against your brain. And once it works, your brain will then support you. And the brain will go, hey, look, when you do this, you're going to be free. And you're like, yeah, you're right, brain. So it's just some very practical way to, like, as you're going through life, going, is this thought me, or is it just my historical data coming through? Have you ever heard that kind of analogy at all, Cassie?
Yes, especially the separating the brain from me, that I am not my brain. Yes.
Yeah, and it's really important. So how do you trust yourself? Well, you don't trust your brain because that's not you. So the question is, do you, like, that's the question, right? Like if you're just, you will never trust yourself if you just let your brain run things.
And how do I trust that friendships, relationships, the type, the high quality that I do desire to be and to build, how do I trust that I will cross paths with those people? Because I do know that they exist, absolutely, 100%. But in my life now, I don't have that trust or faith that I'll ever encounter them.
I think you have to, well, because your brain's telling you some stories and you're going to guard yourself. I know this personally. Okay. So what I'm doing right now, and this is something that me and you are on the same page. Like, I'm just trying to open up more and more and more. I'm trying to find more people in my life that I don't trust anybody. And it comes across kind of arrogant sometimes, going, oh, you think you're better than me? I'm not. I'm just scared. I don't want to be hurt. I've been hurt all my life. So what I've done is there's people that I meet and I right away in my head go, oh yeah, no, they're screwed up in that area. I don't want to hang out with that guy. And I'm realizing, holy shit, I'm doing this everywhere. And I look around, like no one's ever around me. Like, I'm not saying I'm not by myself. I got some good relationships, but the thing is, I'm like, even on a hockey team. Okay, I'm playing on a hockey team. There's like, I don't want to be friends with half these people. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'd love to be friends with these people. So this is new for me, and like, I'm not like, so I really feel like we're all par. Everyone's on our journey. Like, I really don't feel better than anyone else, and that's why I'll share openly too. It's like, so I'm looking at people going, I think I'm going to try a relationship with some of these people that aren't, because you said it, the high quality. And that's the part where I've just had a new awareness going, oh, that's my doorway that I'm not letting one in. Because because in a weird way, as long as they're nice to me and they're good human beings, that's all we need. Like, so this high quality, like, I want someone that's like digging into self and development. I want someone going after the things they want and all this. And like, I want to be surrounded by successful people. And I realized, are these actually things I want, or are they just protecting me from being hurt? And so how do you attract different people? Try some people you wouldn't normally try and let them nurture. Stick around for a while. Even in sales, the first touch, the second, it's just to get to the second touch. The second touch is to get to the third touch. Once you get to about 5 or 6 times with the client, it's amazing. But the first time you just like, I don't even know if I like half these people, but after a while they kind of grow on you. And this is my own journey, Cassy. So I feel like if you could try a relationship that you don't like, maybe it's a geeky person you don't want to hang out with. Maybe it's someone that's like, oh, not my style. That's a jock. Like my brother always like, that's a jock. I'm hanging with jocks. Like, these are just like guarded things we do. So maybe just take a check-in on where your rules are with relationships and maybe lighten them up a little bit. Because guess what? You can dump them after 5 times anyways. They're not like a date. You know, like, so I'd give them a go, you know, like I'm I feel like I've just crossed this woman-man line here now.
Oh my gosh.
They're all laughing and I don't know why.
So funny. So funny. But what you're saying is so accurate. Like, Cassy, you aren't obligated to keep anyone in your life that isn't a full-hearted yes. But like Ben said, give it some time, because often those initial snap judgments that we make about someone are more about our past template than they are about who someone is in reality. And it's impossible to know someone's character fully without having experience with them. This is why in dating, it's so key to have a dating phase. So we're not quite in a relationship, but we're testing for alignment. We're actually seeing, what is this person made of? And do they actually mesh with what I'm looking for in a relationship before I give my full-hearted commitment? Same is true for friendship. It's kind of like tryouts. You know, you're auditioning these people for your life. And like, some will make the cut.
But sometimes you got to lower the expectation and sometimes you got to raise it. It just, if you want people to, it really feels like you need to let people in. It really does. I know this. It's new for me in the last few months. Just really going to give it a go. Like, I'm going to try some people that I think, why would I ever let that guy in my life? He's just depressed. But then I'll tell you one story. I heard a guy, there's this one guy and he's kind of nice, but I'm thinking, I don't know. It's not that cool. Like, I don't know why, but you just kind of like, not into him. Then all of a sudden he's listening to my podcast. All of a sudden he's like, man, I've really been looking at my mental state. And I like him now. I'm like, what the fuck was that? I'm like, that is so bad. Like, I'm going, I got a problem here. Like, I'm only letting people in that like my shit. Like, this is not cool, because then they're safe. That's all it is. If you like me, you're safe. And if you like my stuff, you're safe. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm sick of that shit. So I'm going to let some people in that I'm not normally, because guess what? I could have skipped the whole judgment, skipped the whole thing and just been like, yeah, cool, man, let's hang out. Like, he would be waiting to love to hang out with me. So I just feel like I feel like I can relate really well on that, Cassy. And I look at you in the eyes, I'm like, it's like, just let him in a little bit. And that's just your story. You've been safe for so long. You've probably been hurt a lot. I know my kind. And I just feel like if you just let someone, let's do this together. Let's let some people in for real. Like, I'm trying to do that too. Okay. So I'll like jump on Facebook and Instagram. Let's connect. And I'll tell you when I hang out with someone that I thought was kind of dumb and that I really like him. And I'm like, this guy's pretty cool. You know, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons together now. I don't know. There's so much judgment. So you're getting it though, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
And a little mindset tip to help in that department is, if every new interaction you go into, if you set the intention to learn something interesting about someone that you didn't know before, that will start to open that possibility of like, and also build that faith and that trust that there's something valuable in every interaction that you have. And when we can see value in every interaction that we have, nothing becomes a mistake. Nothing is a waste of time. And sometimes that's one of our biggest stories about love and relationships, is that, wow, I just wasted all of this time. So if we can see like, oh, I want to learn something new about this person that I didn't know before. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, maybe you learn that they love rocks and you're like, wow, interesting.
But then like, why rocks? And then you can find out. Like, do you know what's, it's interesting. We you know how do you do yoga, Cassy?
Yes.
So they say that's my practice, right? So this is now your practice in relationships. This is your practice. Like, hey, find out something new every day, or it's your practice. I feel like that's the same thing. We identify with that very easily, the yoga practice, and because eventually you can't stretch, eventually you're totally stretching and everything. This is what it is. So it's our practice to let people in. And how to do that is, the first one, it doesn't work. We're pretty rigid. Second one, maybe a little bit more. It's like yoga, right?
So good. So good.
Well, Cassy, thank you so much. I just never, ever take anything for granted when it comes down to someone sharing their life. This is just like special. The way that you just come and just open up is really cool. Any guy's going to be lucky to be with you. But I think there's a lot of relationships that are going to be improved with some of the tips and techniques and just some of the stuff we've chatted about in your practice and all that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you. I'm going to digest and put it into practice. And thank you.
Yeah. And you can listen to it all over again soon.
Yes. And I'm really amazed how you can let a total stranger onto your show and hear a little bit and just really pinpoint the key issues that need to be addressed. So much respect and Thanksgiving for both of your work. So thank you.
Awesome, Cassy.